In this video, we're looking at joining with the incoming force and redirecting it. We're going to have the options of using either brush knee or the Taiji ball. And here I'm talking about cloud hands and how the roundness of cloud hands redirects incoming forces, much like the Taiji ball does. So here I'm demonstrating cloud hands redirect on top and attack on the bottom. It can be an elbow or a shoulder. And here, rolling with the bottom part of the ball, lifting into an upward strike, similar to Fair Lady, or it could be Fair Lady. And here I'm showing how a lot of people have the bottom hand too close to the body. So we want the bottom hand a little bit away from the body so that it's actually useful in redirecting. So that was a kind of catching the arm in the transition between the top hand and the bottom hand as we do the cloud hands. So here we're just having Jay to feel that energy himself, kind of redirecting, and I wanted him to lock that arm as the hands switch. So again, we talk about the roundness and the smoothness of the cloud hands, waving hands like clouds. So one thing about waving hands like clouds is that in the form it leads into single whip. So if I'm waving hands and I can go into my single whip, but why can't I go into other movements like the ward off or the Fair Lady? So the creators of the form made it adaptable that you should be able to flow into any move, not just the next movement in the sequence. And here I am explaining that if you're standing, you should be able to roll your ball to either side, pivoting on the heel. And if an attack comes high or if it comes low, you'll either use the top arm or the bottom arm of the ball to redirect that energy around you. So here I'm demonstrating with the top hand as Jay comes in with the pole. That was a little bit too low for me. We all had a good laugh about that. And that one I'm demonstrating with the bottom arm. So just Tai Chi joining, connecting to that incoming force and redirecting it not by pushing out with the arms, but by turning the dantian, by pivoting on the heel, by just softly redirecting it. And so here I demonstrate, if you don't know if it's high or low, if it's in the middle, you can go high with the top hand or the bottom hand. And in that last case, I chose to use my bicep to redirect as opposed to the forearms. But yeah, we want to try to connect on the forearms, not on the hands. And it's going to, if it's the bottom part of the ball, the lower hand is going to connect on your radial bone. And if it's the top hand, it's going to connect on your ulnar bone. So here it should hit his radial bone, the thumb side of the arm, on the lower hand, as you can see there. So here just kind of demonstrating how once you roll the ball, you can go into a ward off, or you can go into either a horse's mane or slanted flying. I kind of did it against the pole so it didn't go too high. And they're going into Fair Lady. So you have all these options once you start redirecting the energies around of being able to step into different postures. And there you can't see there was a splitting energy. I pressed down with the right hand as the left hand was coming up and the pole was between my hands. And what that does, it just illustrates joint locking the arm. Kevin could feel the pressure as it was being put through the pole. So giving Kevin opportunities to show his expressions on the form. Here Larry is going into kind of like a brush knee movement. He steps through on it, which is fine, but he has a nice soft touch of connecting. But what I wanted to do was control the pole a little bit more. So we're wrapping and coiling around the pole, kind of connecting with the wrist bone and letting the hand drape and coil over the pole. That creates a very solid structure. It's relaxed and we're not grabbing, we're not using the hands, we're not squeezing too tight, but it creates that type of a situation where it's very hard for the opponent to pull the pole away from you. So here we're demonstrating if you just bring the pole straight up, it's going to hit you in the face. So you have to have forward energy, pung energy. It has to be going away from you as you bring it up. If you just lift it straight up, it's going to hit you right in the chin. So here we don't advise fighting open hand against pole or bare hand against pole. Even though we do use poles in a lot of demonstrations, the pole merely represents an incoming force. It could be a punch, well, it could be a pole, it could be whatever, but again, just joining with it, redirecting it. And here again is that coil. So I coil the wrist outside the pole, and that's just to keep it from coming up and hitting me in the head. So if that was an opponent's arm, if I did brush knee, I could trap it with that coil. Sifu Tarsan Young was my Bak Mei Sifu, and he was very, very fond of that particular coil. And as a matter of fact, I brought him to a Taiji class one time, and as we were doing brush knee, he had the whole class to practice that coil. This was several years ago before he passed. Here, Jay wanted to feel it on his arm, and so I let him feel it there a little bit, and I moved his body so he could feel how tight it is. I moved his body not by pulling with my arm, but by sinking in the quad and just turning the dantian a little bit. So when we do these coil, I want to distract with a hit and before I coil. That way he doesn't know what's going on with his arm because he's got a hand in his face. So here I'm talking to Kevin about as he connects to it, just kind of sink into that back leg, sink in the quad, and pull with the dantian. And it's kind of hard to tell in the video, but Steven's pulling with quite a bit of force, trying to free the pole, and we all took turns doing that. Just have the person coil, again, not grabbing with the hand, just using the wrist bone and the pole locked up between the bicep, and the other person would try to pull it, and you can see Steven was actually pulling Kevin forward a little bit there. So I was showing that it's very comparable to the high pat. We want to do that in high pat. We have that splitting energy. We want to sink in the leg and have that splitting energy. One going forward, one going backward. So here I told Kevin the root, try not to move, and I'm just moving the body. I'm not pulling with the arm. And you can see he was very heavy, but just me sinking in the quad and rotating was able to pull him off of his base. And then with that, if I continued and did my splitting energy with the high pat. Take the hand, let the hand relax like that. And you should put your wrist bone on it. There you go.